Hello guys and welcome back to Planet 40k Necrons. In today's video we're going to do another review for a unit within the Necrons index, and it's going to be the Canoptek Spyder. Now in 9th edition I was quite keen on the Spyder, and it's just one of them units that goes under the radar, so I wanted to give a review of this unit today and give a Planet 40k rating. So let's get into the review. So it's 75 points for 1, 150 points for 2. You can only have units of up to 2 nowadays, whereas in the previous edition you could have units of up to 3. Now every model is equipped with the automaton claws, and you're basically getting the 2 particle beamers for free, and any model could have the fabricator claw ray and a gloom prism, so you're getting all that stuff for free. Now previously they were 60 points in 9th edition, and then you had to pay for the upgrades. It was £5 points per beamer. So that would be 10 points for the beamers, then it was 5 for a gloom prism, 5 for the fabricator claw ray, 5 for the fabricator, 5 for the fabricator claw array, got it. So that kind of all totaled up to 80 points. So in a way they're cheaper now, they're 75 points for 1. As for the keywords, well, they're a vehicle. Something that went under the radar. I only spotted this about a month ago. I thought they were monsters still, but they've changed their profile from 9th edition. So that's, yeah, unique. They've got fly, yeah, whatever, and they're canoptic. So let's flip the card over, I guess, and let's check out the datasheet. So they have got a movement of 5 inches. They've gone down an inch, as per usual. Toughness has gone up, though, to toughness 7, which is nice. They were toughness 6. Toughness 7 is quite tanky, you know. That's virtually a light vehicle, and I know they are now light vehicles. Crazy. 3+ armor save, wound 6, leadership 8+, and objective control is 2. I think they deserve maybe 3 on the OC, but that's fine, that's fine. We can't really have everything. So that is the statistics. I'm okay with that. It seems quite a resilient unit. But yeah, let's move into the weapons. So you're getting the 2 particle beamers. 2, don't forget, there's 2 of them. Blast, and that's for each one. So if you're going up against a unit of 5, you're going to get an extra 2 shots, because each particle beamer has blast, not just blast for both, it's each one. That's very easy to forget. They've also got devastating wounds, which is good. Every wound roll of a 6, you're going to be ignoring armor and invulnerable saves. Now they're 18-inch range, which is good because these guys can also fight as well. And they're hitting on 3s now. They used to hit on 4s. They used to hit with the Canoptek hitting ability of 4+. It's now 3s. Things change. Strength has gone up to strength 6. They used to be strength 5. Oh, AP is 1. No, AP is 0. AP is 0. That's as it was. AP 0, and the damage is 1. So D6 attacks is, in fact I missed that part, it's D6 attacks. It used to be a flat 6 per beamer. It's now D6. That's a little bit of a stinker, to be honest with you, because yes, you've got 2, and yes, it's got blast, so against a unit of 20 termagants, that's going to be an additional, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 shots. That's nice, because every single particle beamer you have, which is 2 of them, has blast, so that works nicely. But against the smaller units, it kind of stinks. D6, you might just roll a 1, and then on the other one you might roll a 2, and in total you've got 3 shots, and you're firing against a one model unit. So you've only got your 3. There's no blast, so it's better used against bigger units, of course. But yeah, the ballistic skill going to 3+, and the strength going up to 6 is nice, particularly against toughness 3, because you're wounding them on 2s, which is good. It's good. And then the dev wounds you don't really need, but it's all good. There's a lot of good changes. It's just the one thing there, which is the attacks. But blast kind of fixes it in a way. As for the melee side of it, the automaton claws, which is 5 attacks per model, and that is weapon skill 4+, so it's back to canoptic stuff again. Strength 8, -2 AP. It was -3, but that's okay. And damage is a flat 2. So going up against Space Marine armor, you are literally cleaving through it, because you're putting them on a 5+ armor. Used to be a 6+ armor. Used to be really good. But a 5+ is still okay. Every one that goes through, you're removing a model. When you've got 5 attacks per base, so you could potentially have 10 attacks if you've got 2 of them, that's doing work. That's going to be removing quite a few units, well, quite a few models there. I mean, you're hitting on 4s, which is a bit of a letdown. So even if you do have 10 attacks, you're instantly going to drop half on average. You're going to have 5 hits. And then you're wounded on 2s, so what, you might get 4, you might get 5. And then they get an armor save, so you might kill 2 or 3. It sounded better at first, but realistically in melee they used to be better, now not so much. Ability wise, they've got Deadly Demise 1, which means they can explode if you roll a 6 when they get destroyed, and if they're in a unit they can actually explode onto one another, which is a bit annoying, but it's only 1 mortal wound, it's not the biggest deal, and you've got reanimation protocols, you can kind of deal with it, which is actually the faction ability. Canoptek Swarm is the unique ability, so in your command phase you select a friendly Scout Swarm unit within 6, and 1 destroyed model is returned to that Scout Swarm for each Spider model in this unit. So in fact, that's better now, because you don't have to take them individually. You can actually just have 2 in a unit and bring back 2 still, although it will be for the same Canoptek Swarm unit. Now the Canoptek Scouts have got the Explode ability, so they can detonate and cause mortal wounds. You've of course got reanimation protocols for them, and maybe there's a reanimator there as well, and then you're bringing them back with the spiders as well. We'll get onto that more in the synergy section, but that's the reason why that ability is quite good. Then we come on to the Fabricator Claw Array Aura, which I've said it right in one this time. For Necron vehicles within 6 inches of the bearer, they get a 6+ Fear No Pain save. So that's handy, I guess. Most of them have an in-1 save anyway, so an in-1 then a Feel No Pain. It's alright, it's okay. Then the Gloom Prisms is a 4+ Fear No Pain save against psychic attacks for all Necron units. That one's obviously situational, it depends on who you're going up against. Some factions don't have any psychic attacks like Necrons. But going back to that Fabricator Claw Array, I mean, that used to in 9th edition be a D3 heal. Although to be honest, we don't really need it. I mean, when you've got the Reanimator there and Reanimation Protocols, we probably don't need that repair, and a Technomancer as well, repairing stuff, we probably don't need the repair. So it's okay, it's okay. Let's move into some synergy from the index, starting with the Protocol of Hungry Voids. It's a +1 to the Strength, so that will make the Automaton Claws Strength 9, which means going up against Toughness 8, you're now wounded on 3s, Toughness 9, you're wounded on 4s, so it assists you with that. And if you're being led, which you probably won't be, but if you've got the Sovereign Coronal somehow on a character, maybe it's a Technomancer with a control node, then you're going to get an extra bit of AP, which will mean your claws are -3 AP. Back to how it used to be in 9th edition. Protocol of Conquering Tyrant is to be able to re-roll all your wound rolls, which is good because we've got devastating wounds on our wound rolls. So that is actually not too bad, and you get to re-roll them at half range, which would be 9 inches, and if you've got the Sovereign Coronal again on a character, then it'll be at full range. So yeah, re-rolls is always a good thing, so no complaints using that one. The Protocol of Sunstorm is so that you can advance and still fire your particle beamers. That's if you're not going to be charging in that round, because of course you can't advance and then charge. We don't have that ability with the spiders. And also one that went under the radar until only recently, but Tank Shock. Tank Shock is used for vehicles. This thing is now a vehicle. It's not a monster anymore. So in your charge phase, you can spend a CP on Tank Shock, and you do the equivalent of your strength characteristic, which is, going back to it, strength 8. You get 8 dice, and you basically roll any 5+ rolls, your opponent suffers a mortal wound. In fact, if your strength is higher than their toughness, you get 2 additional goes with this. So you're going to get 8 dice, potentially 10 dice, and a third of the dice are going to be mortal wounds, to a maximum of 6. Now, in a previous video, I don't know what video it was, I spoke about using the Protocol of Hungry Void to upping the strength to maybe get those 2 extra dice, but you can't actually do that. It was a mistake because the Protocol of Hungry Void is only in the fight phase and Tank Shock is only in the charge phase, so they can't be combined. There was an error there. Other bits of synergy, you've got the Technomancer with 2 different abilities here. First of all, the Technomancer ability to be healing a Necron's unit within 3 inches D3 lost wounds, and the Canoptek Control Node for Canoptek units within 6 for a +1 to their hit roll. So very similar to the Sovereign Coronal. So you'll be hitting on 2s with the beamers, which is nice, really nice, especially when you've got blast and dead wounds, and hitting on 3s with the claws. Now, I also said this in a previous video, it's when you're taking like a Technomancer with Necron Warriors, always take the Control Node, don't take the Cloak, because you're passing on the fly keyword to the warriors. It doesn't give them fly, it doesn't give them the ability to fly, because they don't have the ability to fly, but it gives them the keyword because you share keywords. And if there's any anti-fly weapons that are coming to shoot your warriors, they're going to work on the warriors. So I would always take the control node with warriors, but it'll also aid your nearby Canoptek units anyway. So it kind of works double bubble. +1 to the hit roll for your spiders. Good. And of course you've got the Canoptek Scarabs next. I mean, that's an obvious one. You're going to be bringing back a base for every spider you've got in the unit. Those things go bang on their own, and even if they don't use the explodability, they still go down quite quickly with toughness 2 with a 6+ armor save. They're a really good action monkey unit, the Scarabs. They're a good area denial. They're a good anti-deep strike kind of option, so they're good to keep up and running, and they half your opponent's OC as well, so they're a good unit to have. And finally, we've got the Canoptek Reanimator, of course, to be getting an additional D3 with your reanimation protocols for anything within 12. Always worth having a reanimator nearby. Then we get on to the battlefield role and the secondary missions that can be done with your spiders. First of all, what's the battlefield role? So they're a mid-board battle unit. This is what I've called them. They're not going too far up the battlefield. They're not going into behind enemy lines and all that stuff. They're going to be in your own deployment zone or the no man's land, harassing units that are on objectives. Maybe it's an infiltrator unit that's trying to get some ground early. Maybe it's a unit that's charging in. It could be, you know, some Vanguard veterans. I don't know. Spiders are the kind of unit to deal with them because we are tanky enough and we can fight and shoot quite well enough. So that's where I would class them as a mid-board battle unit. They're also a defend your own castle kind of unit as well. If you don't want to go too far with them and you've got some Canoptek Doomstalkers maybe, with the Technomancer, with the control node, everything's getting a +1 to the hit roll. You need some sort of defense for your Doomstalkers because otherwise they're just going to get battered in melee. And the spiders could be that role. They could do that role. They're an anti-infantry unit with their damage 2 melee weapons and the particle beamers with blast. There's a lot of shots there. They're just removing models for fun, especially screening units. They're just going to go, like, they're just going to get vaporized because the amount of attacks you get from the particle beamers when you've got 2 of them is good. It's good. Secondary mission scoring wise, well, it's everything that relates to our half of the battlefield. So secure no man's land, extend battle lines, defend stronghold, area denial. All of that relates to our half. Engage on all fronts. 2 of those quarters are of course in our half as well. So anything that isn't past the halfway mark, they can deal with. You can probably add in no prisoners, maybe assassination if there's a leader in the unit, but really you're saving that for the other stuff. They can do it, but I think these that I've got on the screen for you, these 5 are the ones that they definitely can deal with. Pros and cons wise, well, starting off with, they can shoot as well as fight, which is always nice. It's quite a nice rare, well, it's not a nice rarity, it's a rarity to have in the codex. I mean, we've got the Praetorians that can do it. I don't rate the Praetorians, but they can do that. But yeah, the spiders can do it, the Catan Shards of course can do it. They've got the double blast and that's at 18-inch range, which is nice. They're durable as far as light vehicles go, with toughness 7, with 6 wounds. I think that's okay. And they're not exactly expensive either, they're not super expensive. They're now a vehicle in fact, so that's another pro because monsters didn't really have any sort of synergy with the stratagems, and now we've got Tank Shot, which is cool. They got the Canoptek synergy with the Technomancer in particular. And we don't know, when the codex comes out in the end of the year, there could be some sort of Canoptek detachment which will really relate to Canoptek units. We don't know yet. We can only go as far as what we can see, which is from the index. It's got another layer of defense with all the Feel No Pains, the 6+ Feel No Pain for vehicles, 4+ Feel No Pain against Psychic. That's going to aid our defense. And the nerf that we had in the Meta Watch recently didn't really nerf damage 1 weapons for dev wounds. Dev wounds now doesn't go into mortal wounds. It just basically skips the armor save and the in-1 save. But if it's like a dev wound and it's got damage 5, all 5 of those damage points go onto the 1 model rather than spread out. But when you've got 1 damage weapons like the particle beamers, it makes no difference, does it? Because it's still 1, 1, 1. So it's kind of like how it was for damage 1 weapons. So there wasn't really a nerf to dev wounds for the spider. Cons wise, you can only have max units of 2 now, not 3. They can explode onto one another. It's not a big con, but it's still a con. You've got to add it. Fly with a 5-inch movement doesn't really do anything. It's not climbing up anything. It's not going over ruins. It's barely making it up hills. You've got to get the entire base on. You can't have a base sticking off if you actually go into the core rules. you'll find somewhere where it says you can't have any part of the base overhanging terrain, otherwise it's not classed as being on the terrain. So therefore fly just kind of stinks. It's not going to be breaching through ruins because it's not like a beast or anything like that. It doesn't repair anymore. It used to repair D3. I don't think we necessarily need that now with the index, but it had that and it was a good ability. And it struggles to get into list. This is probably the biggest con out of all of the cons we've just listed, because when you're making a list for Necrons, you're thinking of all the big units, whether it's warriors, whether it's Lichguard, Catans, Overlords, or any other characters really. You're then thinking of your scoring units. Maybe it's Death Marks, maybe it's Scarabs, maybe it's Ophidian Destroyers, Tomb Blades. You're thinking about all these resilient units, and you're thinking about the scoring units, and you're obviously thinking about your anti-tank, your Locust Heavy Destroyers, your Doomsday Arcs, your Doom Stalkers, maybe your Monoliths, the bigger stuff. And the Canoptek Spyders are one of them like luxury units. They're sort of the afterthought, and that's where they're a problem, because you don't think about using them unless you try to think of using them, if that makes any sense. I don't know if it does. If you like go, right, I'm doing a spider list, then yeah, you're going to have them in your list and they're going to be in there and they're going to do really well. But the majority of the time, with most players that I know, and me as well, I don't think I'm ever thinking about spiders. They're not. Transcendent Catan, I'm thinking about that. If not the Transcendent, then it's the Nightbringer or the Void Dragon. And then, again, I'm thinking about what characters are going to synergize with what battle line units or Lich Guard. Am I going shooty? Am I going melee? What ones am I bringing? What's my scoring units? And then I go from there. And by the time you've got those units in, you're at 2,000 points and you've already done. You've not got the extra luxury points of saying, right, I can now fit in some spiders. I can now fit in an annihilation barge. You know, those luxury units that you don't necessarily need, but they're not harmful to your list. They're not bad. They just don't go in. If you're playing like a max, like a 3k list, then yeah, you probably could fit them in. But then, in fact, would you fit them in? If you're playing like a 3k list, you're probably thinking, right, I can fit 4 Catans in now, and I can fit in 5 lots of warriors or something stupid, because you don't normally play like 3k. So again, the spiders become an afterthought, and that's the problem they have. But as far as an actual Planet 40k rating goes for the unit itself, they're not bad. They're not bad, they just don't get picked enough. So I'm going to go with the Planet 40k rating of 3 stars.